Hello, 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 guys. I'm here. I'm just like out of breath because I'm like running around my house, making sure the live stream is on the TV, making sure it's on my phone. I sometimes have problems with audio with this platform, so just give me a couple of minutes. Oh, and I'm getting feedback, so that means you guys can hear me. Can you hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me. And hi, Rosa. All right, guys. Out of breath, but living, breathing. It's gonna be okay. Hi, Sussex squad. Oh my God, I missed you guys. I hope everybody's doing really, really well today. Let me know how you're doing in the comments. Let's go ahead and get started. I see people rolling in, but I feel like we might as well just go ahead and jump in. So, yeah, before we hop into it, let's maybe just recap where we were last time. So, we love the Successes because, of course, they have faced incredible bouts of xenophobia, racism, sexism. They've even just encountered like invalidated sort of attempts to break at their character, just these things that have been fed through the media for like a decade now. They don't just try to disparage them from like technical things like, oh, she wore the wrong thing and she broke royal protocol by doing this. It like goes into a much deeper place, like questioning their ethics, like, questioning her baby bump and things like that. And what was it? It was Sussex Squad Family TV I was watching, which the Coronation, we have to talk about that a little bit today. But literally, I can't remember which Sussex Squad channel it was, but there was like a statistic that literally like 170 hours or something, or 170 articles had been written about um, Harry and Meghan, and Meghan didn't go to the coronation, and Harry was basically like an afterthought. So it just shows the level of obsession that these people deal with. And one of the reasons that we love the Sussexes is because they're so resilient in the face of all that. And guys, let me just tell you, when I started out this project, when I started out this series, which also to any creators out there, you know, any squaddies from the kind of creator crowd out there, let me tell you, this work of content creation is not easy, and especially if you're doing it by yourself. So if there are people out there, Success Squad, anybody who is creating, whether it's for Sussex Squad or anything else, kudos to you, because it's definitely is not easy. But I feel like we're at a point right now where a huge amount of accountability is coming towards very, very extremist personalities. We can see that happening in the US with Donald Trump, with Rupert Murdoch. And so I feel like the same, you know, trashy UK tabloids like the Daily Mail, who've come after Harry and Meghan and their little family, you know, relentlessly for almost a decade. I feel like some accountability is finally coming. And the worst part of that is that the public is sort of creating that accountability. Now, when I started this project out of doing this, you know, 8 reasons why we love the Sussex Squad, why we love the Sussexes, why they're so resilient, it literally started out with things like the Robert F. Kennedy Ripple of Hope Award, and you know, just the NAACP were like very, very simple things that we could track throughout their career. But as things have been developing, and since the last time we all met up together, I just felt like that was pigeonholing me and pigeonholing the Sussexes. I mean, it's like you really can't just dial their resilience down to the individual details. I hope I'm explaining myself well. Like, you can't just dial it down to the individual details. You kind of have to look at a global standpoint of their experiences. So I did things a little bit different this time. I kind of did it in these big categories. So let's start with number 5. We left off on number 4 last time. Let's talk about them becoming financially independent. So, and by the way, my husband is coming home early from work today, which I tried to like jimmy this in here, because when he gets home, he just sounds like he's just traveled around the world, and the way he calls my name is like, just like, shh. But he has been instructed to chill out when he gets home. So this is an article from Insider, and it is labeled How Prince Harry and Meghan Markle Earned Their Money from a $100 million Netflix deal to Harry's inheritance. Now, this is something that you're always going to see the derangers. You're always going to see their biggest critics coming after. Oh, they just said they wanted to go live a peaceful, quiet life and gain some financial independence and gain some stability. But, you know, when they do that, they come back and they totally rip them apart. Even myself, you know, I feel like money is one of those subjects where it's just kind of rude to be sort of picking apart someone and trying to figure out what their sources of income are, what exactly they're getting paid, how much they're getting paid, through who, you know. And I feel like we live in this day and age where everything is on the internet. Everybody can be, you know, the court of public opinion. And so all of these people are questioning their money. And I get it. I get it. They're public figures. But at the same time, it's like we shouldn't be this invested in somebody's wallet, honestly, unless we've got some issues with obsession. Now, after, like, that's just basically to caveat to say, I would not be digging into what the Sussexes have and how much money they have, where they're getting it from, unless there were people's just huge obsession with knowing where their money comes from. I thought that this article laid it out really well. So we all know about the Oprah interview. I don't know if I want to go too much into the politics of the Oprah interview, but we know that that was a stepping stone for them financially and with their careers to become independent from the royal family. Now, this is just the way that this article lays it out. Like, I wouldn't have necessarily put Oprah Winfrey at the top myself. I'm just going through it the way that it's presented here. Now, did they deserve every penny they got for the Oprah interview? Yes. Did they deserve to go ahead and put their truth out there without people ridiculing them? Yes. You know, I feel like Twitter, I think I have a vendetta to like wage against Twitter and TikTok, because although I go to those places for research and I think that it's interesting, I also think at the same time it just seems like a place for a bunch of vitriol. It's like let me go off on a tangent. But I also want to say hi to Hazel. Hi, Hazel. It's just like really, really, really bizarre to me how invested and obsessive people are about them. You know, Oprah was them letting them know, it was flagging not just the UK down, the United States where Meghan is from, and the world to say some of our most cherished institutions are really not being so tolerant and sensitive of people from a different background, from a different socioeconomic class, from a different race, from a different gender. And maybe we need to talk about this stuff. To me, Oprah was them letting the world know that. But then when I go and I look at derangers on Twitter and on TikTok, they're really, really coming after Oprah as if they lied, as if, you know, but I feel like that was a valid place for them to make some financial gain. What do you guys think? Is it just me? The next one says, a senior clearance house spokesperson told the BBC that Harry and Meghan received a substantial sum, in quotes, from Charles to make their transition to financial independence easier. This one is tricky for me, like, because I've said many times on this channel, I don't hate Charles. I don't go to sleep, you know, just dreaming of the day when, you know, he'll just be out of the picture and William can take over. I don't think about that, you know, like I see him as a part of an institution. And when we look at many of the institutions in the Western world, many of them are wrapped up in prejudice. You know, we can't forget those nasty histories. But when I also look at Charles, as I've been very vocal on this channel, he just seems very, very detached in his handling of his relationship with his own son. I mean, it just seems so transactional. And, you know, I don't know if they got a sum from Charles, you know, a substantial sum, which I don't know. Like, I'm not going and doing forensic accounting on this stuff. But for me, looking at his history, his track record, you know, even in the past when Harry had to say he basically had to beg for money to buy clothes, you know, I don't see this substantial sum happening. Now, where it talks about the inheritance from Diana, I can absolutely see that. I think there's also something to speak forth, and I guess this would be a positive for the royal family, but I mean, I don't know how much of it is a positive as much as a default. But, you know, I feel like Harry and Meghan are particularly lucky, I guess, because they did have a foundation. Now, we know that Samantha Markle, Thomas Markle Jr., I don't think we can count them in that foundation. I think Doria Ragland is really like Meghan Markle's, she's like her foundation. But I think Meghan Markle herself is also her foundation. She didn't come from even an upper middle class background. I think we can honestly say that. But she was a millionaire when she met Harry, you know? So I think that she basically brought to the table her own intellect, her own mind, her own independence. Like basically she was already bossing before they met. And then Harry has his inheritance from his mother, which to me is just like, dang, that's a beautiful way for Diana to almost just sort of reach out to him and to all of those of us who loved her, you know, from the grave. It's basically like she knew that maybe one day Harry was going to need to be taken care of. And I think there's something beautiful in that. So then it speaks on Harry's time as he was in the British Army. We know that he is a veteran. And something that I really hate is that they try to almost take that away from him. You know, as someone who has a lot of veterans in my family, many of whom, you know, suffered through things like post-traumatic stress disorder and alcoholism and homelessness, you know, life after wars, life after terror is not always as cut and dry and as easy as driving to mini malls on the weekend and picking up the kids from the soccer game, you know, which I don't want to sort of caricaturize the followers of the royal family outside of the Sussexes, but it seems like many of them are leading sort of a kind of a complacent life. You know, they're not necessarily out there fighting wars. Maybe some of them are, but from a lot of the criticisms that he got, it just seems like, you know, these aren't veterans. And for, I mean, you know, someone very close to me and my immediate family is in the military in the US. And I just thinking about the times that they have been deployed, you know, and their kids have been put through the grief of just wondering, like, is my parent going to come back home? You know, my mother being put through the grief of being like, is my child going to be able to come back home? For people to just antagonize Harry, like he didn't, his career before he met Meghan wasn't valid. It just really, really, it grinds my gears. So I think the same way that we say, hey, Meghan was pretty independent when she came to the table, I think we can also say the same thing about Harry. You know, he had a career in the military, and we saw from his book that he spoke about that very fond. He was very fondly. He spoke of it very fondly, but he also spoke about it with a lot of diplomacy that people didn't recognize. So, Rosa. Prince Charles didn't give money to Prince Harry, and Princess Meghan, he said he had no money for Princess Meghan. He's exactly. I know this is exactly why I wanted to have sort of an open discussion about this, is because I don't know what I can trust anymore, guys. It's like I look at some articles and I'm like, okay, this is telling me one thing, but how do I really know to take this for fact and for truth? And looking at Charles, I'm with you, Rosa. Looking at his track record, it doesn't seem to me like he would be leaving completely generous sums. Maybe he would, but to me, there had to be some sort of strings attached or something. I don't know. So we talked about Meghan already. She already had, you know, a small fortune before she met Prince Harry. People want to say, oh, compared to the royal family, that's nothing. But for the common person, especially for people, just everyday people right now, I mean, I live in France. I know it's not, the situation is not like in the UK. You know, the shelves in the grocery stores are not empty, but prices have gone up. And, you know, even for people who are not doing so bad, I mean, you can't ignore that prices are kind of crazy, and maybe you're making the same amount of money or less amount of money. So yeah, compared to the royal family, maybe Meghan Markle wasn't rolling the dough, but compared to the average person, she was doing quite well for herself. And there's my husband walking in. He better not say anything. Okay, so yes, The Bench. I love The Bench. So Meghan Markle has published a book called The Bench that many of you guys know about, a children's book. And I think she got a lot of ridicule for that, because people are like, oh, so what are you going to do? Are you going to be an actor? Are you going to be a writer? Are you going to be a diplomat? Are you going to be a humanitarian? To that, I just say haters. Haters are going to hate. We know that Prince Harry's autobiography, Spare, was a huge success. We know that, what was it? The Netflix documentary was the most watched show. Okay, and then they talk about the Spotify deal, and they talk about their home. Okay, so that's basically the bulk of Harry and Meghan's financial portfolio thus far. But I am in the strong belief that they're going to keep getting amazing opportunities. They're going to keep getting amazing deals. And what's wonderful is that these deals don't just circle around pomp and ceremony and extravagance, sort of the way the other senior royals do. You can tell from the core, for Harry and Meghan, what they do is for the common good, is for other people. And when you operate from a way like that, you know, nothing but prosperity is just going to keep coming back to you. I wanted to note, I thought that, you know, just with all of this in mind, they've done a great job. Like, people are really, really critical, but financially becoming independent when you've been so pigeonholed into just being like a dutiful boy for the British monarchy, to be at a certain place at a certain time, to smile a certain way, to dress a certain way, to be a certain way. And they said, no, we're going to do this our own way. And to still be able to keep up with the lifestyle that they had before. Maybe it's not, meeting diplomats from Turkey and dining with, I don't know, the king of some huge, monarchy or kingdom in far off exotic lands. Maybe it's not that, but maybe it's more authentic to who they are, and they can still afford the things that they love, that they've become accustomed to, security. And I thought, I looked at this Insider article, and the last one, they purchased their first home together, an estate in Santa Barbara, California, in July 2020 for $14.65 million. First of all, amazing. They're living in an amazing home, in an amazing area. We know that Archie and Lily are being raised in a great environment, but it makes me sit back and think about this from more of a fiscal perspective, especially as someone who's lived in LA, Santa Monica, not as nice as Montecito, but oftentimes those purchases are really a stepping stone, an investment for future. People might buy a $14-15 million home and think, oh my God, that's really, really expensive. That's a little bit too much. But they might do so much work. They might put so much love into the architecture, the integrity of the space, the interior design, and by the time that they sell it, it's doubled in value. So I think that was also a very strategic move. Tisa tells us right when she says Meghan Markle is a very, very smart woman. And I wonder when the trashy tabloid media and the royal family, who kind of try to knock them down a peg, I really, really wonder when they're going to notice that. So the next one, awards, and amazing charity work. So like I said before, I basically kind of had to just put all of this into these gigantic categories because I can't just focus on one award. They've won countless awards. Now, something that I've been very, very hesitant to do is to go after the other senior royals, because what I find very, very often, and this is just kind of me, this is probably my background. I'm from the Southern America, like American South. I was raised, when you walk into a room, you say hello, you say yes, ma'am, you say no, ma'am. That can be a very restrictive way of living sometimes. But for me, it really gives me a guiding light. And so I just was taught two wrongs don't make a right. So I just prefer not to be going and disparaging other people, that may have done the Sussexes wrong. But with that being said, I do have to say, as I was doing the research for this, I was really, really trying hard to find awards that Kate Middleton has won in comparison to sort of where Meghan Markle, where Prince Harry are. And I really couldn't find anything. Now, that could have been an unconscious bias. Like, maybe I just was like, I wasn't looking in the right places. If any of you guys know of anything, let me know. But for the most part, I could not find anything. any awards for Kate. I've seen that she and Prince William have been major patrons of some charities and things like that. But I always saw that kind of stuff, like patronage, but I didn't really see awards. So I don't know. But we see here in 2021, Harry and Meghan got the charity Population Matters to receive the Change Champions Award, the NAACP's President's Award, the Ripple of Hope Awards, and that's just a snapshot. There's a lot more, and that's just for Meghan Markle. Now, this one's for Prince Harry. Oh, no, this one's also for Meghan Markle. So there's more. Okay, so she was nominated for the 2018 Teen Choice Award. Okay, now for Harry, he's gotten awards that definitely seem related to his efforts with the military and with the Invictus Games. We see here NAACP, so I think that he and Meghan sort of won that as a dual thing. I'm not a huge expert in everything Harry and Meghan. I really, as you guys know, I really didn't understand how antagonized they had been by these smear campaigns, the hate campaigns that have been coming since, 2016, when she basically came into the picture. And so I've just been like, I guess I've just been on the crash course into like sticking up for the Sussexes. But the Heart for Children Award, Golden Heart Award, the Atlantic Council Award, Distinguished Humanitarian Leadership Award. I mean, we could keep going. There's a lot of awards basically out there for the Sussexes, and we don't see the same thing for necessarily for the Wales. And at some point, I think we have to wonder why that is. It's not for no reason at all. It's because, you can see something. You can see. Oh, yes. Agreed, Rosa. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I'm going to have to do more research because maybe I wasn't looking in the right places, but I really wasn't fine. I wasn't coming up with much. I don't think Kate really has garnered many awards, but I just think that Harry and Meghan, they're usually coming from a deep humanitarian place. Harry lost his mom at a very young age. He was in the military, and he chose basically really to live that military life. Hi, Marshall. And it just like I think that adverse childhood trauma, traumatic experiences, sort of like the one that Harry went through, sort of like the one that Meghan went through when she lost her child due to all of this harassment that she's got, when she got death threats and things like that. I do think that experiencing things like that can really change a person. And for some people, it's going to change them the other way. We can look at some of the MAGA cultists in the US, for example, to see that some people can really take issues with fear and unknowing and the abyss of just what could happen, but you don't have any control over. There are some people who can take that and they can use their powers, I guess, for evil. And I think Harry and Meghan are two people who just naturally use their power for good and for other people. And so for that reason, it just very clearly translates into awards. I mean, awards. Now, I did see something over Coronation weekend. I think it was over Coronation weekend, or it was last week. Back in 2022, we know that, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but not surprisingly, like it's happening all the time in the US, a school got shot up in I don't know if you pronounce it Uvalde or Uvalde, but in Texas. And for those of you who don't know, Kaboom is like a platform basically that I've used it when I've gone to linguistics school to learn French. And basically the professor would give us these challenges, where we have to answer questions about grammar. We have to select the right question or the outlier or whatever. And Kaboom basically makes learning fun. It just basically makes a game out of it. And you don't need to have any kind of login. Basically, whoever enacts the quiz or whatever, they just give you a code and you can log in. And it's really, really cool. Hey, Marsha. And so when this whole thing with Texas happened, of course, Meghan Markle, like we just talked about, there's some people who come to advocacy from a place of just like, oh, logistically, this is what I should do. I have a career in political science and I want to make money, so I'm just going to become a philanthropist. And then there are some people who are like, I really care about people. I really care about, passing good policy. And so I'm going to do this for the good of, this collective, this human collective that we're a part of. And so this is from Showbiz Daily, and this is from May of 2022. Well, the article itself is from May of 2022. It was kind of like a slideshow thing. And this one is talking about all the successes for Meghan Markle. And for this particular one, it says May 2022, supporting a community experiencing unimaginable grief when an 18-year-old gunman stormed an elementary school in Uvalde, I'm sorry, don't know how to pronounce it, Texas, and killed at least 19 children. Meghan Markle was on the scene days later to offer her support and lay flowers at the memorial, remembering the children who were lost. A spokesperson for Meghan said her desire to visit came from her personal capacity as a mother. Now, you read that. And so basically over the coronation, I guess to honor this, Sussex Squad completely independently raised money, more money for Texas. But just to think about Meghan Markle and that, you know that that's coming from a place of just, it's natural. It's not to go for a photo shoot. It's not to go and be empty-handed. You know, it's not to go for good press. This is something that she really, really cares about. So I think that the awards, I mean, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they win tons of awards. They're going to keep winning awards. But I think the reasons that they get there to the awards, that's why they're so resilient. That's why we love them. By the way, if you're American, please, 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 please vote blue in 2024. Please vote on sensible gun reform laws. Goodness gracious. Okay. So there's some more in here. It says April 2020, suing tabloids to protect privacy and taking a stand with the UK papers. Now, I don't completely remember my train of thought of putting this in here under awards and charity, but I think I can probably get back to the gist into it because I think this sort of needs to be connected to their overall advocacy and humanitarian work. The fact that they had the you know what enough to go after these trashy tabloids who've been going after them for such a long time. It just, I hate to keep bringing up this US versus UK thing. I really, really do, because I know that people don't like it. At least derangers don't like it. And people who generally just don't like the Sussexes don't like it. But there's something really to be said about the experience of fake news, of misinformation, of fear mongering, of scare tactics that are not only appearing in the UK, but in the US as well. And ironically, most of those publications are headed up by the same people or headed up by the same subcultures of people, the same kind of groups advocating for similar stuff. The tabloids, the trashy tabloids have to go. They have to go. I mean, they have to be reformed to take into some account some level of humanity, some level of sensibility. And I think that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle truly, truly understand the implications of that. They really, really, really do. And I think that, you know, not to get off subject, but it just is everything right now because the orange man is going down, to look at basically how CNN threw a friggin' town hall for Donald J. Trump. And there, these people are just joking and laughing about a woman that he sexually assaulted as a direct result of this trashy media that we've been being fed for almost a decade. That stuff reverberated around the world. I'm sorry. But I mean, even in the UK, where they might look at the US as, you know, silly and naive and young and unimportant, I think that that sort of blatant approach of actively not being tolerant, not being bipartisan, you know, not considering the facts, not trying to comfort people, but instead to, you know, rally them up, shake them up, and get them all fearful and aggressive. I think that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle see that that's happening on both sides of the pond. And you know what? Something really, really, really interesting happens when you put a European person with an African-American person. I'm speaking from experience right now. And I know my husband is downstairs having a chuckle because you just start to look at some stuff. And as many differences as you may have, you may look at some of those social things that you grew up with. You may look at some of those cultural tokens and references and things and say, I see some similarities. The killing of children and teachers was horrendous. I am with you. It's disgusting. I cried for days. The evil Texas Governor Greg Abbott, I've heard of him, is in bed with the NRA. So guns will be a thing in Texas, an open carry state. Marsha, it is really, really breaking my heart, and I'm completely there with you. I did vote in 2020 offshores. Basically, I had to go through this process with my state, Georgia, and I had to go through voter registration in order to be able to do an international vote. And it kind of was a pain in the butt, but I'm basically gearing up to do the same thing right now, like a year in advance, but I don't even care. It's like, I need to start preparing right now to make sure that I vote in the US, even though I'm not staying physically right there right now. That's where my citizenship rests. And anybody, I mean, and I know it doesn't just end with the presidential elections, and not to get too much off topic, but I mean, it factors into the Harry and Meghan stuff, because we see these things that are wrong with policy in both the US and the UK, and people are complacent to do anything about it. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Yeah. Yeah, the UK Tories are looking at the US Republican. Yes, 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 yes. I've been thinking the exact same thing. I've been thinking the exact same thing. Okay. So this is the last one. So they were awesome in avoiding the coronation theatrics. Guys, can we just talk about this for a second? Can we just talk about this for a second? Like, before we even get into any of the screenshots, the tweets, the articles, whatever, can we just talk about the coronation for a second? What did you guys think of it? You know, because I've made some other videos, but I don't really have that in real time experience with you guys. So I thought it was very distasteful for Camilla to take that picture with those Blackmore statuettes behind her. You know, it shows how tone deaf they really, really are. And I was getting just strange vibes from Charles. I mean, I was talking to my friend, and like I told you, his fingers were so big. I know that that's like such a weird thing to be caught up on, but his fingers were so big. And I know, as someone who, my dad passed away from cancer. And just a side note, you know, like, my dad was sober the entire time that I was alive, you know, while he was alive. And but back in the 70s, he definitely boogied his way into jail. I mean, he was doing drugs, he was partying, he was womanizing. He basically morally wasn't that much of a great person back in the 70s. And you know, like many people, like Muhammad Ali and Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis, you know, and I'm not trying to compare my dad to those people, but many Black men, I think, in the 70s boogied their way into prison, and a lot of them became Nation of Islam or Muslim. And, you know, I just remember he lived, I guess, so when he passed, he was 68, and he stopped doing drugs, stopped partying, stopped doing all of that stuff at least at age 30. Let's just say 30, something like that. His 20s was really spent doing the bad stuff. And towards the end of his life, when he had cancer and his whole body was basically ravished from cancer, from choices that he had made 3 decades prior, that just goes to show you, you got to take care of your body, because your body can be unforgiving about mistakes of your youth. And I remember that his because of all of the medications that he was on towards the end of his life, his fingers would swell up just like Charles swelled up. So I'm also very concerned. I mean, I feel like these people don't have empathy for me. They could care less about me. I'm just some random person on YouTube talking. And for the people who support the monarchy, who are the avid monarchists, but they are kind of dipping their way over into sort of, you know, white nationalist territory, they probably look at me and don't care about me. But like I said, two wrongs don't make it right. And I can look at Charles, and his whole vibe that day just did not read right to me. Like, I just feel like I'm really sensitive to this type of stuff, and something was off. He seemed very, very lucid, very detached and checked out. Like I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a reaction of different medications and things like that, but I also know that he is not the most emotional man. So maybe it could also just be connected to that, and I'm just reading too far into it. But for a day that's supposed to be so important and loving and carefree, and there's supposed to be people in the streets, it just seems so strange to me that that wasn't the vibe that I was getting. Crowmilla, is that how you pronounce that? You guys are so bad. Okay, so frankly, I left at Crowmilla, taking her official picture with the Blackmore statues because she is messing with our ancestors, but the ancestors will have the last laugh through karma. Believe it. Oh my God, I believe it, you know? And even if you're a person who doesn't believe in karma, if you're not religious, you're not spiritual, just justice, you know? If you just look at the waves of social justice, you know, and the fact that we do live in a day and age where, dude, you don't have to hide in a castle. We literally can get on Twitter, we can get on, you know, an article or read something, go on YouTube, go on Reddit, and we can see exactly what you're about. So there's more accountability in this day and age. I'm really just confused on how they don't understand this. And it's something else I noted about the coronation. It just seemed like it was Camilla's day. Is it just me? It seemed like it wasn't even Charles's day. It just seemed like it was Camilla's day. I've got my tea. Chuck knows what's up. Justice is coming. I feel that. I just, yeah. Let's take a look at this. All right. So starting off with Meghan Markle's friggin' that PR letter. Y'all, I know I've been talking about this for at least like 2-3 weeks now, but I still cannot get over that letter. I think that I put it in here in its totality. Let me just double check. No, I didn't put the whole thing in here. Okay, well, the just part of it. She said the Duchess of Sussex is going about her life in the present, not thinking about correspondence from 2 years ago related to conversations from 4 years ago. Any suggestion otherwise is false and frankly ridiculous. We encourage tabloid media and various royal correspondents to stop the exhausting circus that they alone are creating. I remembered that part, so I didn't even have to have the whole thing in there. Boom, that they alone are creating. I just thought that was such a mic drop moment, guys. And you know, it's really weird because they are so obsessive with Meghan. You know, it's I in a way I feel bad for Prince Harry because the same thing that's been happening his whole life is happening right now, where he just kind of gets pushed off to the shadows and people just leave him to his own devices. Like, oh, whatever, he's just a spare. It's not that important. The same thing is happening right now. Who came to the coronation to support their dad, Prince Harry? Who are all the articles leading up to the coronation talking about? Meghan Markle. Which, by the way, in that TED Talk with her guest appearance, she looks beautiful. I mean, the same way that I can read when someone is not doing so great in their physical person, in their mental space, I can also read when someone is doing really, really well. And Meghan looks wonderful here. She looks like she's thriving despite all the nastiness, and I'm so proud of her. I know, Rosa. I kept thinking about that as well. And I think a lot of people were thinking about sort of, I don't know, what's the best way to put this? Sort of like what this coronation would have been like if it was Diana being crowned. And, you know, I know my tone is changing, but it's just like Princess Diana she's like a light. She's like a light that we truly lost. Like, and I know she's a light in Harry's life that he lost. You know, the way that God works, if you believe in some sort of God or some sort of Prince William should be the spare. If you believe in some sort of God, you probably think that the people that you love, when they pass on, some part of you has to believe that they're not completely gone. Like my dad, like I was talking about my dad. I feel like my dad is here very often. I wouldn't say I'm talking to him every day, but every month or two. Sometimes it's like he'll lead me to go look at a particular book, or he'll drive me to think about a particular memory, and I feel he's there. Maybe he's not there physically, and maybe he's not even there in the way spiritually that I think that he is. But the memory of a person when they're past, the memory that you had of them when they were alive doesn't die, and you don't die. So you always live with that person's memory. You live with their light just illuminating throughout your life. And that's the way that I see Diana. When I think of her, I think of warm, glowing, bright, starry lights, just kind of sprinkled throughout. And I didn't feel her in this coronation. I didn't feel 1 ounce of her. I feel like Charles has very, very clearly moved on a long time ago from Diana. And so I don't see her, I don't see her in there. Now, Rosa, what you said about Prince William is really, really funny because, as far as just like natural charisma goes and natural empathy, emotional intelligence, I feel like Harry has more of that. But it's funny because William is the one who will come into that position of power. Maybe in a way it's kind of like Queen Elizabeth II and her sister. Her name is slipping me, guys. I haven't watched The Crown in a long time. This is when you know that my little Anglophile dreams and soul has been crushed. Like, I literally would watch Downton Abbey and The Crown and The Tudors literally just as background noise because I loved it. Hi, Lottie! Haven't seen your name in a while. Got me a little excited. I'm sorry. Hi! I used to look at a lot of British shows, not even like as a new thing. Even Bridgerton, Queen Charlotte came out. I was so excited when I first found out about this stuff. And then I've been seeing everything that's going on with the royal family. And I find it really, really hard to look at a lot of the stuff that I used to really enjoy. So if you guys have any advice about that, maybe you were like me, maybe you really liked a lot of British music and movies and you just feel a little like jaded or burned or, betrayed or something. And so it's keeping you from that. So maybe let me know. Agreed. Yes. So Marshart says, I think what happened to Diana was meant to happen. That allowed Meghan to come into Harry's life. Harry is the true king who is showing the evil of the monarchy to the world. The crown will fall. It's really funny to think about because, I had told you guys that I'm on a catechism course. I grew up as Muslim, but I'm converting to Catholicism after a long 10-year road of sort of dating and teetering with the Christian church. And, back when I was 21, I walked into a Unitarian Universalist church, but it took me a very long time to get to where I am now, to just not be ashamed of what's always basically been in my heart, which it's not to knock the Islamic religion. I'm so glad that was my foundation, but I just really wanted a foundation in the scripture, in the life of Jesus. And very recently with Bible study, I was reading about Lazarus. Now, many of you guys might be Christian and you really grew up with the scripture in your life. It's kind of embedded in your life, but I didn't. And so it's basically like I am truly reborn as a child. It's like I'm learning things anew. And although it's not completely new because I feel like there's very many parallels between the Bible and the Quran. There was this one story recently this one piece of scripture recently that I read in John chapter 11, I think it was, where it talks about Lazarus and Jesus reviving the life to Lazarus. And I think you're right, Marsha. I think that This is kind of like one of those moments where Diana, it was a tragedy maybe that happened for a reason. I can't, I don't have authority to speak as if I'm omnipotent because I know that there's only one God, but I do have to know in my heart, or I do know in my heart that the world, it wasn't just Harry and William, who changed when Diana passed. The whole world literally took that hit. And I think that she was here to teach us a lesson. I think you're right. So yeah. So now, this was an article. So this was an article that Omid Scobie. I've been following Omid Scobie's Twitter quite closely. The same thing for Dr. Shola. Like, I really, really like their Twitters. And I have a Twitter as well. I think that I'm going to put more Sussexsquad Squad content on my Twitter and sort of also continue our conversation there, just because there's a lot of squatties there as well. There's a lot of squatties here on hey Karen. So don't you know that Prince William and Kate right hand Jason Kay was behind trying to make Princess Meghan lose her court case? Yes, I've heard about that, and it doesn't surprise me because the Daily Mail seems to be a little bit like Lazarus themselves. It's like you beat them down and they keep on coming back. But I think there's a deeper issue that they're just deeply entrenched in this very toxic relationship with the royals. And so it's like the royals don't want to get rid of the Daily Mail. That's bringing them so much good clout. It's like, you think that we're going to get rid of this? No. So yeah. But I just this woke. So I've been following Omid Scobie stuff a lot, and it says revealed the moment Harry's inner circle realized the party prince had turned into unrecognizable, quote unquote, woke duke. And it all started with granola and bewildering requests from Meghan. So they are doing the same crap. They literally have no accountability, no scruples. The Daily Mail has got some big ones. They got some big ones. Like literally after Prince Harry and Meghan have sued them, they still continue to do stuff like this. Stuff that we know might not be directly calling her the N-word, but we know that this is racially motivated. It just... So what did Omid say? He said, Coronation in a week, slew of new details released, but the Sussex's Psycho X, the Mail, is out here splashing with stale gossip about their granola. Wonder when the palace, who still exhaustingly suck up to this rag, will realize it's actually killing their brand. Lord bless Omid Scobie. I just hope that the Lord stays with him and keeps him protected around this bad energy, because I think that he tries to do his job with some emotional intelligence while also reporting on royals other than just the Sussexes. And the way that toxic work culture works. They push people like that out. So I really just pray that he is safe, and that he is authentic, and he's able to continue to sort of to do it. There's another one, exclusive, and he's back. Prince Harry lands at LAX after just 28 hours and 42 minutes in the UK for King Charles's coronation, making it in time for Archie's 4th birthday party. Like, how obsessive do you have to be counting down from 28 hours and 42 minutes of this man coming for that? Like, this point, we know that they always are tracking people. We know they're listening into phone calls. We know that they're illegally downloading information. So they got their spies. What do you call them? Plants. They got their plants in there, literally tracking his every move. Not to do anything productive, but just to criticize him. I mean, we know that they're resilient because they completely decline to be a part of that circus at all. They just were like, I'm not doing it. I think Meghan's statement says everything. They're like, I'm not doing it. I'm not having it. And at some point, I think about this because it would be wrong to let the Daily Mail keep getting away with this crap, right? But on the other hand, one way that you fuel abusers is to keep giving them attention. So you tell me, guys, like, what do they need to do to get rid of their psycho ex, the Daily Mail? What is it gonna take? Because they've sued, they've tried in the past, way back in the past, not now, but they tried in the past to be, to accommodate them. And they've tried ignoring them. To me, that's basically every route. So what is left? To me, the only thing that's left is reform. It's reform, it's reform, it's reform, it's reform. The UK media needs to be reformed. Some of it in the US needs to be reformed as well. And I think that policy is the driving force that's going to get to that. As you guys have seen in my video, I talked about sort of the parliamentary things that need to happen in the UK for that to happen. But I also think that grassroots advocacy movements can also lead to good policy. And so when we see the Not My King stuff, the more that stuff like that stems up, I think it will, I don't want to say it, it's going to drive a background task. Like when you have your computer, and this is the just best metaphor I can think of right now, where your computer is running a task in the background. It's not necessarily in the foreground, but it's going back there. I feel like that's what those grassroots activist movements like the Not My King, Reform UK, those are also going to help us get to that media reform. But other than that, I don't know what they can do. So Marshall says they want folks not to be woke. So they can keep up with their evilness and racism, classism, and misogyny. You go. Yes, they really are terrorized of Meghan, and that's why they tried to tear her down. They are failing. They're failing miserably. They're failing miserably. And if I didn't feel so sorry for them, I still probably wouldn't feel anger. You know what? I don't really have any anger. I feel sorry for them because the same way that the MAGA cultists are, they've been incited by hate, by fear. They let somebody basically take their deepest fears and use it as a weapon against them. It's the same thing that, people, Harry and Meghan's biggest critics are guilty of. They let this trashy UK media just feed them lies. And they took that and their own fears, they just sort of, it's like, oh, we'll project our fears over here. It just doesn't work. Hi, Karen. So Karen says, Princess Diana was a sacrifice for all of us, and most importantly, her sons, and is the beneficiary with his family. He is the disciple and messenger for change. It's all God's work. Girl, I hear you, and amen. I really, really, really love that. And I do think that they are messengers. They brought a message to give us something really important. And that's not to denote that, messengers are just a Messiah. We've had our Messiah. He's here, he's alive. That's all you need to know. But there are people that I do truly believe are sent in the name of God to just sort of remind us of our humanity. It's something that we keep forgetting. It's something that we keep forgetting is that we're connected. And it's like my favorite show law says, if we can't live together, we're going to die alone. So Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's charitable work throughout the years. Never, never, never feel sorry for the enemy. Understand them and counteract them. It's the survival of the fittest for a better world. That is so true. And, it's something that me as a content creator, I'm learning more and more as well, because there is a lot of anger out there. And understandably so. I'm not going to say that it's justified. These people out there who antagonize Harry and Meghan, But it's a crazy world we live in right now. I think it's something like 1% of the world's population holds most of the world's wealth. Don't quote me on that. I'm quoting that statistic off the cuff. But I think that basically we can come to the conclusion that there's a lot of people out there struggling. There's a lot of just average Jills and Joes who, I get it. They see that people are living a lavish lifestyle and they think, why not me? They think, oh, in my family, I've experienced death. I've experienced addiction. I've experienced mental illness. I've experienced all of this stuff. They think about all of this stuff. And then you've got this very convenient Daily Mail article in front of you or GB News segment in front of you saying, these people are terrible. The Sussexes are whiny and they're spending your money on private planes. And so you said, oh, okay. Well, let me take this anger and fear that I got, and I'm just going to displace it towards these two people. On an empathetic level, I get why you're doing that, but it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. And so you have to keep fighting the good fight. So they talked about Archie Well. They talked about the Walker Family Events Foundation, which that one I didn't know of. They talk about the Genesis Women's Shelter and Support. They talk about the World Central Kitchen. And literally, I've been studying all of this for like nonstop since September when I actually really found out about this stuff. And I hadn't heard of half of these. So that just really goes to show you that their charity work is like, it's deep. It's deep. Archie's birthday donations. I love the fact that, you got archetypes and you have the like Archie's birthday donations. Like, I love the fact that they also integrate their family into this in really real, authentic ways. When I see Louis and George and Charlotte sort of splashed up on these pictures and things, I don't see anything really tangible behind it. I don't see like these are the next leaders who are going to lead us into new discussions around multiculturalism, about climate change, about, learning from other people and other cultures and other backgrounds and worldliness. Like, I don't see that. So I really like that they actually do kind of use their children to kind of elevate that same spirit of philanthropy, of humanitarianism that both Harry and Meghan have. Procter and Gamble partnership, Books for All. I love the fact that Meghan is really an advocate for education. Yes, beneficiary. It's okay. I thought that's what you were trying to say, but I was just like, I had a brain freeze myself. So I was like, what? But, yes, they are definitely messengers for change. I'm with you there. I really like that Meghan is a child advocate. Because I think what's happening right now, I've had several conversations with my mother about this. My mother is from a different generation. She is a baby boomer. She's 70 years old. She had me when she was 40. So, I think in many ways, the older generation can sometimes you look at the younger as not prepared to take over leadership. But the advocates that really look at a child and say, you know what? I see you. Like, I see the potential in you. That's not to say that my mom doesn't see the potential in me, but I'm just saying, like, the older generation, I think sometimes, especially public figures and politicians, even trickle down into our own families, they sometimes forget about that lovely gem that they have, not gem like a gymnasium, but a jewel gem, that lovely jewel that's right in front of there, which is the youth. If we have one hope of anything, it's the youth. And the Coronation, they sidestep and step their foot into their mouth so bad. It's like they're poking around in the dark and they don't really know where they're going, because so much of this really could have been used to their advantage. Most of the people in the Commonwealth look like Meghan, who's the person that's not up there during the coronation. Okay. Meghan also is a child advocate. She wants to be there for children. What's the biggest demographic in the UK who is completely lethargic and uninterested in the monarchy being around for the next 100 years? It's young people. Like, I really love that Harry and Meghan both pointedly and intentionally make sure that they're advocating for children, It talks about UCLA Center for Critical Internet Inquiry. Technology, we already know how much hate campaigns, smearing they've had over the years. We know that. So it would make sense that they advocate for that. You have more things into medicine and research. Women for Afghan women, that's important. Martin Luther King Jr. Day and NAACP. And I think, oh yes, supporting Ukraine and the March Plans for Moms and Women's History Month. So I think that that's it. Yes, that's it. Let's see. So what's a nice way to wrap all of this up? I just think that the Sussexes are so resilient in ways that, as many of you guys probably notice when you get on here, it's like, it's not just about these tangible things that we're talking about. It's about the spirit of it all. You know, genuine spirit when you see them. And these two just have the spirit of fighters. They are fighting. They are survivors. Yes. All the older generation can do is teach the younger of how things were and what it took to cause change. The younger knows how to make change quicker through this cyber age of the internet technology. Yes, I'm with you on that. You know, like, I really think that the old can learn from the young and the young can learn from the old. And let me just switch that around, because thinking of my mother myself, she'd be like, old? I'm not old. Let's just say seasoned. The seasoned can learn from the young and the young can learn from the seasoned. But I just want to, it's a little off the cuff, but I want to do a little prayer for Harry and Meghan, because it's just, I can't imagine, even though they have at their resources, you know, affluent people, celebrities, and huge organizations and charities and money and homes and resources, but they're still human beings. And the truth of the matter is, the world and done them wrong. The world and done them wrong. And it's hard, you know, it's hard when you are trying to uphold this level of humanity and you look around you and there's pure evil and darkness around you. You know, when I honestly, doing a lot of this research has shown me that real evil truly exists. And it takes a huge amount of scruples basically to continue on your path. So wherever you are in this world, I'm closing my eyes. You don't have to close your eyes, but I'm closing my eyes. I'm going to say a little prayer and then we're going to close this out. Lord, I just want to take a moment to thank you for everyone that is here today, anyone who is watching this video thereafter. I pray that every individual is blessed with health, well-being, prosperity, wisdom, and peace of mind. I want to focus on peace of mind because so many times it is up to whether you call yourself Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or Hindu or Baha'i, whatever your doctrine or creed may be, and perhaps it's even atheist. But oftentimes the burden falls heavy on the shoulders of those of us who seek to carry out your will through morality and love and compassion, and to persevere on our path despite that path really presenting thunderstorms and hail and weathering. It can get you down. I want to pray for Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Archie, Lilibet. They're so resilient, but resiliency is not bulletproof. It's not ironclad. And sometimes even those of us who are resilient, we falter, we flail, we flop. And Lord, I just pray that you keep them safe on their journey. Continue to propel them towards your will, your effort to keep us humans remembering that we're in this together. In Jesus' name, amen. So let's leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to close it out here. If you're watching this video here after, my name is Najwa. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the bell so you know whenever I post a video. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for being here. Bye, guys. You can't see me, but I'm waving. Bye. Bye.